to do searches of those individuals. So they would keep tabs on them and make sure that they weren't illegally possessing guns. This intervention has been studied in a variety of places. Boston, one study estimated it was associated with reduction, a 63% reduction in youth homicides, 40% reduction in homicides in Indianapolis, and in a part of Chicago where they adopted a very similar model, 37% reduction in homicides. So now, the even harder part, getting at the supply question. Can you actually do that? So this basically comes down to two things. What are the appropriate criteria for who should be able to legally possess a gun? And then how do we make people accountable for making sure that the guns don't get into those individuals' hands? Fairly simple. But can we actually do that when we have so many guns in this country? One estimate is 285 million. I'm somewhat optimistic, actually. In New York City, a very crappy little gun that in most other places would cost you $100 or less goes for about $600 in New York. Well, why would that be? I know everything is more expensive in New York, but there's got to be some degree of scarcity. You know, when a product is that much more expensive, it has to be that there's some degree of scarcity of getting illegal guns in New York City, which has very restrictive laws. Chicago also has, in essence, a handgun ban. And while all too many gang members do have guns, there was a very interesting study done of the illegal gun market in parts of Chicago. And the conclusion was that that market is actually very thin. It's not so easy for suppliers and buyers to link up. They don't really trust one another that much, and there aren't that many people willing to go in and make the deals with the gangs. I'm going to fast forward to something. I'm going to talk to you the last couple of minutes about gun dealers. A lot of my work is focused on gun dealers. The reason is that about 1% of gun dealers sell roughly 50 to 60% of guns later recovered in crime. The data suggests that that's just not some random phenomenon that some gun stores just sell more guns than others, but it really has to do with the way they do their business, and that there are frankly some people doing some very illegal and unethical things. We currently have very lousy controls at the federal level with the ATF doing relatively few inspections and being very limited on what they can do when they do those inspections. It's very, very difficult to revoke a license, for example, in the federal system. You have to be ultra, ultra bad and stupid to get your license revoked. I'm not kidding. I mean, you just got to be insanely stupid and bad. And there are people who are insanely stupid and bad. And someone loses their license, but it doesn't happen very often. So we've been interested in sort of, well, since the federal government is doing such a lousy job of this, maybe states and localities can do better at this. So we started to look at this. We found 17 states that require some sort of licensure process for gun dealers. However, 6 of those really was kind of just something on paper. There's actually no eligibility requirements whatsoever, and 3 didn't even require them to keep any records. So we've been studying this. We also studied law enforcement agencies and what they do or don't do, more commonly don't do, to sort of keep tabs on the gun dealers and the gun sellers. What we found was that basically there were 8 states that were doing what you would hope they would do, which is they require gun dealers to be licensed, and they regularly audit and check those places. We just published a study that came out in the Journal of Urban Health showing that regulation of gun dealers, state and local regulation and oversight of dealers, significantly reduced illegal gun trafficking, as well as regulating private sales. At the federal level, we say if you're a private individual, you can sell whatever gun you want to whomever you want to, more or less. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And we found that that those sorts of measures significantly reduce trafficking. We also looked at some efforts to do undercover stings of gun dealers in places like Chicago and Detroit. Those cities followed up, in Gary, Indiana as well. They followed up with lawsuits as well. This was in the late 90s. We found a very significant reduction in the guns flowing into criminals when these measures were taken. And New York, upon seeing this research, basically replicated the same thing. Their dealers that were supplying them were more spread out in different states. But in essence, they implemented the same strategy with undercover stings, lawsuits, and we were able to get some data that we're just analyzed now. And for the 6 dealers that we had complete data for, this intervention basically completely eliminated the flow of guns into New York City to criminals. Completely eliminated it. So I'm going to end there and open it up for questions or comments. Yeah.
It sounds like a great program. I'm interested in that you said a large part of the success you had was due to initiative from.
Yes.